There was a time when Earth belonged to more than one kind of human. If you had walked across the planet 50,000 years ago, you would not have encountered a single humanity. You would have found a world shared by different human species, each following its own path through evolution. Some were powerful hunters built for the freezing climates of Ice Age Europe. Others survived across vast regions of Asia. Some lived on remote islands and evolved into forms unlike anything alive today. Yet now only one remains, Homo sapiens. And that raises a fascinating question. What happened to everyone else? The evidence is scattered across caves, ancient bones, fragments of DNA, and stone tools left behind tens of thousands of years ago. Together, these discoveries reveal a forgotten truth. Humanity was once a family, not a single species. One of the earliest and most successful members of that family was Homo erectus. They appeared nearly 2 million years ago and survived for longer than any other human species we know. They walked upright, traveled great distances, and became some of the first humans to leave Africa. For over 1 million years, they adapted to changing landscapes and shifting climates. By any measure, they were an extraordinary success. Yet, despite surviving for such an immense span of time, Homo erectus eventually disappeared. No dramatic battle marks their end. No single catastrophe explains their extinction. They simply faded from the story, and they would not be the last. Then came the Neanderthals. For generations, Neanderthals were portrayed as primitive and unintelligent. Modern science tells a different story. They were skilled hunters capable of surviving some of the harshest environments on Earth. They made tools, controlled fire, cared for injured members of their groups, and adapted remarkably well to Ice Age conditions. For hundreds of thousands of years, they thrived. But around 40,000 years ago, the evidence changes. Their populations begin to shrink. Their presence in the fossil record grows weaker, and eventually they vanish. At first, scientists believed the explanation was simple. Modern humans arrived and replaced them. But the reality appears far more complex. Neanderthal communities were often small and isolated. Climate conditions repeatedly shifted. Resources became less predictable. Then another human species entered the same territories. Not necessarily stronger, not necessarily smarter, but different. And over time, those pressures may have become impossible to overcome. Yet the mystery deepens even further. Because some human species were so completely lost that we discovered them only recently. In a cave in Siberia, researchers found a tiny finger bone. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, but genetic analysis revealed something astonishing. It belonged to a previously unknown human species known as the Denisovans. Very few Denisovan fossils have ever been found, and yet their DNA survives inside millions of people living today. In one remarkable example, genes inherited from Denisovans help certain populations survive at high altitudes where oxygen levels are dangerously low. A vanished species still helping modern humans breathe. Yet, despite this legacy, the Denisovans also disappeared, leaving behind little more than fragments of bone and traces hidden within our genes. Then there was perhaps the most unusual human species of all, Homo floresiensis. Discovered on the Indonesian island of Flores, these tiny humans stood barely 1 meter tall. They lived among giant birds, Komodo dragons, and dwarf elephants in an isolated world shaped by island evolution. For thousands of years they survived. Then they vanished. Perhaps volcanic eruptions changed their environment. Perhaps food became scarce. Perhaps the arrival of modern humans altered the balance. Why did Homo sapiens survive when every other human species did not? The answer may lie not in strength or intelligence alone. Other human species were intelligent. Other human species were adaptable. Other human species survived for astonishing lengths of time. What may have made Homo sapiens different was connection. Our ancestors formed larger social networks. Knowledge traveled farther. Ideas spread between groups. Innovations survived beyond the communities that created them. When environments changed, those connections created resilience. Not just a powerful brain, but millions of brains working together. And perhaps that was enough. Today, we often view extinct human species as stepping stones leading toward us, but that perspective misses something important. They were not incomplete versions of modern humans. They were a successful species with their own histories, cultures, and ways of surviving. Now they are gone, and we remain, not as the peak of a ladder, but as the final surviving branch of a tree that once had many living branches. A tree shaped by adaptation, chance, survival, and extinction. And if the story of the lost humans teaches us anything, it is this. Extinction does not happen only to the weak. It can happen to the isolated, the unlucky, the outnumbered, and those facing changes too great to overcome. Because once there were many kinds of humans, today there is only one, and the fate of the others reminds us that survival is never guaranteed.